Shalom, set apart brothers. Man, in today's video, man, I want to talk to men about something that's probably going to ruffle the feathers if I'm speaking to you indirectly, but it feels like directly. A lot of men aren't going to like this video, but the only way we can get further as men is men that are capable is sharpening other men with wisdom and giving them the know-how of what it takes. And in today's video, we're talking about standing on your own 2 feet as a man. Let's talk about it.
The Matrix is everywhere. It is all around us. Even now, in this very room, you can see it when you look out your window or when you turn on your television. You can feel it when you go to work, when you go to church, when you pay your taxes. It is the world that has been pulled over your eyes to blind you from the truth. What truth? That you are a slave like everyone else. You were born into bondage. Unfortunately, no one can be told what the Matrix is. You have to see it for yourself. This is your last chance. After this, there is no turning back. You take the blue pill, the story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. Remember, all I'm offering is the truth, nothing more.
All praise to the Most High Yah Shalom. Thank you for tuning in to another Righteous Spirit Ruach-filled episode of The Set Apart Man. Once again, I'm back at it in them trenches, handling that kingdom business. You know, as a man or as a young man, when you don't know how to stand on your own 2 feet, you know, biblically it says, be strong, act like men. You know, we see David and Solomon, be of good courage, be strong and of courage. When you look at the biblical aspect, you have it that men are called to be providers. And in saying that, you know, I'm very thankful and blessed that my grandfather taught me how to stand on my own 2 feet as a man. And I understand that a lot of young men didn't have that same type of wisdom poured into their cup, and they've become dependent on women. I'm talking about grown men, man. Men, you know, these men can't even pay their own phone bills. They need some assistance from a woman. Like I said, man, this is one of those videos that's going to ruffle some feathers. But before I ruffle those feathers, man, I need all the brothers watching this, you know, to do me a solid, do me a favor, smash that like button, hit that like button. Doesn't cost you absolutely anything. Okay. You know, secondly, consider subscribing to the channel. You know, and if you subscribe, turn your notifications on so you don't miss a single video and you get all the wisdom, the nuggets and the gems that I'm dropping. And then lastly, you know, let me know down in the comments, answer this question. Why do you think a lot of this younger generation of men are so dependent on women in every aspect of life, you know, financially and leadership? You know, let me know down in the comments and we'll get that conversation started. But very thankful, man, all praise to the Most High Yah, that my grandfather, you know, taught me how to be a capable man. And I was able to get around other, man, I'm up here recording this video and this dog that I'm boarding, you know, jumps on my laps and just wants to sit. But we're going to continue. Check her out. Hey. But I just got off work with my Army job, and now I'm at home working for our family business, letting the dogs out. But very thankful, all praise to the Most High Yah, that I learned how to be a capable man. And, you know, I continued to build upon that, continued learning skill sets, continued sharpening, you know, my sword as a man to where I'm never dependent on anybody or dependent on a woman. Man, the reality is you have a lot of these young men that are raised by women and did not get their cup poured into. So, you know, when I left home at 18 to join the military, I left home and didn't look back. And, you know, part of the reality is I had a mama, you know, when I lived with my mama for 5 years prior to graduating, majority of the time of my youth, I was raised by my grandparents. But my mama, who is on government assistance, didn't really have the money to try to take care of me as a grown man. So what that taught me to do, with everything that my grandfather taught me, that taught me that when I leave home, man, I better think twice about every decision that I make, because there is no calling home asking for help, asking for assistance. And I'm not going to say that there's not times that I didn't struggle, but I was able to stand on my own 2 feet and not call home and ask for money, you know, call home and borrow money and things like that. But man, when you are a young man who does not know how to stand on his own 2 feet, you do what we call a lot of foolish and a lot of trifling stuff. A lot of young modern men are raised by single mothers who don't have a covering, who don't have a male provider in the house. And some young men leave home 18, 19, 20, and every obstacle that they encounter, they don't stand on their own 2 feet and solve the problem. What do? They're dependent on mama. Mama is the answer to all of my problems. And the reality is, your mother not having a covering needs to set aside whatever she can, because when old age hits and she's not able to work, she has no covering. She has no husband that has a pension or a 401k. So she's got to do the best that she can to make sure she's taken care of in her pursuit of finding a husband. So as a young man, you know, man, if you go out and you're shopping and buying the latest and greatest, and you got Jordans on your feet, nice shoes, you got a closet full of trendy clothes, man, you should almost feel ashamed of yourself to have to call home and to ask for help because you mismanaged your funds. Let me say that again. You should feel embarrassed and ashamed of yourself. There's nothing wrong with shame and guilt. That's how we learn from our lessons, but you should feel ashamed that you have to call home from help after you've been buying up the mall, you've been shopping, you didn't put rims on your car, you've been in the club partying, and now you're realizing, man, I don't have enough money to pay my rent. You know, I don't have enough money for my phone bill, my water bill, my electricity. Those are signs that as a man, you're not capable of standing on your own 2 feet. Furthermore, man, you've got a lot of older men, you know, some in the 25, 30, they're doing a lot more trifling stuff because what do? Their life is so jacked up. And rather than learning how to have some form of discipline and building their life on a firm foundation, what do these men want to do? They really can't offer a woman an opportunity in marriage because their life is so jacked up. So what do, man? They string women along saying, you know, one day we're going to get married when I get my stuff together. And it seems like these men never get their stuff together because they're so dependent on women. You know, these men are the men that need a woman to go get a phone for them. These are the men that have jacked up so much in their life, and rather than righting their wrongs and fixing their jacked up situations, they can't go get car insurance for themselves. They can't get a driver's license. The woman's got to chauffeur them around, and they sit in the passenger seat. And it's a particular type of man, a character that I'm talking about. But these men, they got all kind of vices, whether it be drugs, whether it be doggone alcohol. And it's like they can scrounge up money for these vices, but they can't even scrounge up money to take care of themselves. You've got a lot of men that prey on single mothers who are on government assistance and trying to get their life together. And what do these men do? They move in and trifling as they are, they freeload off of these women. They freeload because this woman has a guaranteed roof over her head with these programs, with these benefits. You've got men out there that want women like that so they can take advantage of them because they cannot stand on their own 2 feet. You've got some men, man, they want to, if when it comes to working, they don't want to work a job, but yet they want to live the most lavish lifestyles. They want to stay with the times. They want to keep up with the Joneses. They want to wear the finest threads. And as a man, that's not what it's about. Being a set apart man is about being able to stand up on your own 2 feet. You have to think about one set apart man can provide almost for a dang village. If done properly, you can provide for a lot of people. I want you to think, man, if I were me being a hunter, a fisher, and a farmer, man, I provide for friends and family. I grow enough food to be able to give them some food. You know, when I go hunt and fish, I catch enough to be able to give them some fish, to be able to give them some meat. You know, I raise goats, so I would give my family and provide goat meat. You got to think, some men don't have anything to give because they never learned how to stand on their own 2 feet. And what I want to hone in on as a man, we are problem solvers. A woman comes to you as a covering, you know, so you can help her solve her problems and guide her in the right directions. But a man that doesn't stand on his own 2 feet, he's not even able to solve the own problem of why can't he get his life together? Why can't he stand on his own feet? You know, and here's the thing. Women in general have a hard time saying no. So you've got sons out here that are dependent on their mama. They know, okay, if you grew up in a 2-parent household, you know not to go ask your father for anything because he's going to tell you, son, you need to stand up. You need to start being a man. You wanted this responsibility. You want to get treated like an adult. You want to get treated like a man. This is what it entitles. But you got sons out there that they're not going to call daddy. So they're going to tiptoe, try to get on mama, try to get a hold of mama and say, hey, mama, could you just, and what's mama going to do? Mama's going to enable this behavior. Mama's going to support this behavior. It's the fathers, it's the strong men that are going to say, hey, no, don't give that boy another dime. Because that boy is always partying. He's always smoking weed. He's always doing these drugs. He's always got money to drink. He's always got money for everything else. But when it comes to taking care of himself, he's not capable. And the reality, a lot of these men that fit into the boat that I'm talking about, I'm not talking about this to shame you because let's face it, a lot of you weren't poured into. And this is me pouring into you. So don't think for a second that I'm judging you in the moment, but I am pouring into your cup for your sake so you can strive to be a more well-rounded man that can stand up on your own 2 feet. You know, as a father, having 2 sons and 2 daughters, man, I would feel bad about myself if my sons get out there and are dependent on me. They're 25 years old, 30 years old. They can't get out there and figure it out. That means something I didn't pour into their cup enough, or either they're just choosing to be lazy and slothful and make poor choices. You know, man, and as a man, I can honestly say I've done, all thanks to the Most High Yah, I've done very well for myself. And I didn't have the brightest upbringing and all of that. I didn't have no silver spoon in my mouth by far. But I can say when I left home, man, I was able to weather any storm that I got through, never depend on anybody, never had to borrow money from my mama, my grandparents, my family, and I was able to stand on my own 2 feet. There's not anybody out there that can say they co-signed for a car and I done them wrong. There's not no woman that can say I didn't laid up on them. I've always stood on my own 2 feet, and I'm a lone wolf. If you know what that means, meaning I don't roll with I don't need a whole bunch of support from a whole bunch of other men in order to do what I need to do. You know, that's just my personality trait, you know, and I'm able to go wherever I need to go and uproot, relocate and thrive. You see what I'm saying? I grew up in the city. So in today's video, man, I wanted to talk to young men, you know, men in their 30s, men in their 40s. It doesn't matter. I want to talk to you about, you know, how to stand up on your own 2 feet as a man and stop relying on everybody else for your provisions of life. You know, this requires hard work. It requires discipline. It requires grit. But in the end, you will thank the Most High Yah, and you will thank me for this video of being that nudge you need, because trust me, man, you got fathers out here dealing with sons that fit the boat that I'm talking about. You've got mamas out here dealing with sons that fit the boat that I'm talking about. You've got women out here that are entertaining men that fit the criteria of what I'm talking about. And this is why when you think about men getting their name ran through the mud, it's getting worse because we have far too many men that want to be called men, want the title of men, want to be treated like a king. But meanwhile, you can't handle the responsibilities, the weightiness, and the burden of being a man or a king. Once again, this is the Set Apart Man, kicking that thing gun barrel straight. And until next time, walk strong, stay disciplined, and stay in the word of Yah.